Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Ramble and Mosey. Just a quick reminder, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe and hit the like button. It does help us with the algorithms. Yay, algorithms. Don't forget to, you can check out Ramble and Mosey on all of your favorite podcast spots, Apple iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you might find it. We're going to have a conversation today, which to me is both necessary, timely, and I think in some ways urgent. There's a lot of conversation around the mental health benefits of the outdoors, how we should better connect kids to the outdoors, how we should better engage youth. And I think one of the challenges we have is that while we have a lot of conversation around it and there's lots of literature to cite, there aren't as many of us doing the work that there probably should be. And so I want to introduce you to a couple of friends today, Garrett and Amanda, who are undoubtedly doing the work, not just conceptually, but also on the ground, and live and practice what they preach, not only in their sports, but also in the way that they intentionally design programming. Garrett and Amanda, welcome. So I'll let you introduce yourselves a little bit, but I'll like the other fun thing we've been doing. Like, it used to be fun if you would Google yourself, you'd come up with this description. Well, apparently now the cool thing to do is chat GPT yourself. So Garrett, if you were to chat GPT yourself, what would chat GPT come up about?
Oh, thank God. I thought you were going to ask me to chat GPT myself and be like, I have no idea how to do that. We're going to be here all day. How do you spell chat GPT? If you chat GPT'd Garrett, it would be a Filipino Irishman that grew up in San Francisco who found his way to Michigan in 2013. He loves the outdoors and he loves working with others to try and connect young people to those amazing outdoor spaces.
It's almost rehearsed, but that's pretty good. Amanda, how about you? If chat GPT is like, who's Amanda?
Yeah, that sounded too like it was actually Chat GPT talking to me, so hard to follow up. What would Chat GPT say about me? I'm an Ottawa here in band at the Potawatomi Citizen. You can call me Amanda, you can call me Nanakasi. I always say that means hummingbird. That's my spirit name. So if you want to talk to my soul, feel free to call me Nanakasi. So there's two sides of me. I have the healer side of me, which is definitely kind of the tribal. I've always used like art and trying to create senses of belonging into my people and into everyone, especially rooted in the land, which kind of tied me to my professional side, which I'm a senior program manager at Chill Foundation, where I try to inspire young people to get outside. And so both of them kind of come in harmony.
Right on. I want to dive into the individual programming a little bit ultimately, but I don't think everyone's as familiar with the programs and the organizations that you work with. And in Garrett's case, it's a very purposeful collaborative of a number of organizations in addition to Garrett's sort of home base, if you will, at the Sierra Club. And then Amanda with the Chill Foundation, it's not small and it's not unknown, but probably not as well known in Michigan as we might want it to be. So Amanda, if you don't mind, maybe give us a little bit of the background on the Chill Foundation, and then also sort of current happenings with Chill in Michigan, and then we can break into programming a little bit later.
Sounds good. So Chill Foundation is a nonprofit that uses board sports as a way to inspire young people and try to build more equitable outdoors. We were founded by Jake and Donna Carpenter, founders of Burton Snowboards back in 1995, where they just really started it as a learn to ride program and realized, wow, this is so much bigger than we could imagine. So now we really have brought in core values and experiential learning curriculum into our board sports that really helps with what we'll talk about later, mental health. We are global, and I work in West Michigan, Vermont, New York, Denver, Seattle, and Tahoe, but we have sites all over North America or Turtle Island. West Michigan being the newest site 5 years ago, started post-COVID or pre-COVID and somehow survived it, which is really exciting. And a really cool thing to know about our programming in West Michigan is we were the first to bring wakeboarding to the world of chill. Right now we do snowboarding, skateboarding, paddleboarding, and surfing, and now wakeboarding. So kind of proud of that in the home of Michigan. And one thing I always like to kind of talk about that makes West Michigan Michigan special is people don't know that snowboarding was really founded here. And there's like a lot of Burton presence right in Muskegon, Michigan. So kind of makes like what we do here really extra special.
There's a statue, right? Downtown
Yeah,
Muskegon.
why does no one know about it? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe everyone knows about it here, but when I
Snurfer
talk
statue.
to like all my like coworkers all across North America, they have no idea. So I always have to highlight that.
We'll teach them. The other warning I think we should put out there is that between the three of us, we work hard, but we also get to merge work and life. And so, we talk about the places we get to visit and experience through work, and I'm using that in quotes. Not everyone feels bad for us, right? So like, Tahoe's part of work, and you get to hang out at Cannonsburg. So everyone should be enviable of not only the places, but also the people that we get to work with for sure.
Yeah, our board meetings look a lot different over here at
Yeah,
Chill.
yeah, I'm sure. Garrett, Detroit Outdoors is a collaborative, correct?
Yep.
Tell me what that looks like.
Well, after hearing Amanda, I want it to look more like what you do over there on the west side of the state. That sounds awesome. Wakeboarding, skateboarding. We have been able to dip into snowboarding and skiing a little bit over the last several years. But if I back up a little bit in terms of Detroit Outdoors and the collaborative, so I work for the Sierra Club. I'm the Sierra Club representative for the Detroit Outdoors Collaborative. Detroit Parks and Rec Department would be the other primary sort of partner in this collaborative. When we started 5 years ago, the YMCA Metro Detroit was another one of the key collaborative members that really helped us get this leadership training and gear library off the ground. And we came together in 2018 with this idea that if you used access to camping gear and a leadership training model, and then have access to a campground in the city of Detroit, in this case, Scout Hollow, it's in Rouge Park, it's owned by the city of Detroit. Those things could really help lower the barriers that a young person in Detroit might face in having an overnight camping experience. And so those collaborative members with a wider network of partners such as the National Forest Service, U.S. Forest Service, Fish and Wildlife Service at the Detroit River International Wildlife Refuge, even the National Park Service had a presence in Detroit at the time, really helping us sort of bring these conversations together around youth camping. The idea was like, we could all come together, this network of partners sharing our resources, aligned in this way around the goal of creating more meaningful experiences in nature for Detroit youth, because that's good for them and they can really go so many places with that initial relationship and hopefully would grow throughout the course of their lives.
Very cool, very cool. I remember the first time that I think I learned about your programming. One of the things I was really impressed with as well is like even with Scouts Hollow was the idea that the youth were able to reimagine the place. I mean, if we think there's so much history and so much trauma in the state of Michigan, depending on where we're at and the populations we're talking about. Then one of the things I thought was always really impressive was the idea that Rouge Park and Scouts Hollow was the place that Scouts went to in the 1900s, the 30s and the 40s, and then social unrest mid-century sort of changed the pattern of recreation in the city of Detroit and the region. And the youth that you're working with, it gave them a chance to reclaim not just the place, but also some of the history. So I wonder if maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
The Rouge River has been flowing through that stretch of land, for a long time, way before any of the strife that you just described. The Rouge River has seen a lot. And now, it's surrounded by the city of Detroit. And these young people, that's their home. And for us to be able to say to these young people, work with their teachers, invite them to have an overnight camping experience in their hometown, it's a connection of place, right? And it can be a way that perhaps for a young person, it's a redefinition of like what their home means to them, or maybe it's just an evolution of what their home means to them. But we feel like there's a power in having a primary experience in nature be in your home ground and not feel that you have to leave your home, your city, your neighborhood to experience this wonder. And so we intentionally wanted to do this in Detroit because Detroit is an amazing city filled with amazing people. And it also has incredible natural spaces. So why not connect those young people with that part of their home? Because it should be a part of how they define themselves and see themselves.
Yeah, and I think I skipped I skipped a few thousand years, right? Because also Rouge Park, home to historic indigenous and native populations, tribal populations. I mean, the state of Michigan didn't magically invent itself in the 1800s. Amanda, I know a lot of the work that you do as well, working on what I'll probably use the wrong term, but what I'll call land reclamation in that sense, in a more spiritual manner, and then also sometimes a physical manner. Share a little bit more, if you would, about how you're seeing the presence of Michigan's tribes sort of reestablish themselves, and especially in some of the younger generations.
Yeah, well, we're all trying to reacquaint for so many reasons, of us kind of having even our own cultures taken away, which, I'm even substitute to. And so a lot of ways that I'm kind of seeing that as I work with our tribe, which is really interesting. And I've made a lot of friends in other kind of tribal nations that run their own programs. I know skateboarding is like a really cool, huge, see it across the country, of skateboarding kind of being the pioneer in like the indigenous board sports and really trying to like build reservations. There's a lot of pro skaters telling about their stories and kind of how it's helped with their mental health and their traumas, which is really cool because that's like really in unison. But that's happening without chill. That's just something that I've like noticed in my community. As far as like what I'm trying to do is trying to like bring a sense of belonging, because myself or other marginalized youth do not feel connected to the land for a variable of different reasons. And I think the outdoors is something, our roots, if you look at like an old map of like the tribal boundaries, they're all overlapping. There isn't like this line of like Michigan or Anishinaabe or Ojibwa or Potawatomi. They're all very emerging because it was really just take what you need. We all belong here, but we kind of have like a central home, these central landmarks that we feel tied to through history and ceremony. And so that's kind of like what roots me in my work, just like naturally, and what I bring to Chill and what I bring to the youth of West Michigan is, of course, I want to like pioneer for my own people, but even if maybe you are brought here, whatever reasons you're here, like I want you to honor yourself. I want you to feel like you belong. And I want the outdoors and what we're doing to be healing, not only for your personhood, but for the next generations. We really believe in providing for the next 7 generations ahead of us with the 7 grandfather teaching. So my hope is like what I'm giving here and now will also be able to pass along. And that's kind of why I like to say it's developmental trauma and ancestral trauma. And I really do think the outdoors and what we're doing and what Garrett's doing can start to rehardwire that so we can pass along these traits even in our DNA to help with healing.
I wanted to share a memory that I got to have. It was in Rouge Park, right? An experience I got to be present for, thinking about what you just shared, Amanda, in terms of like healing that connection. And some partners that we work with in Detroit, Black to the Land, amazing organization. And one of their leaders, Antonio Cosme, was really working with a lot of community members, folks from indigenous communities, to do a sugar bush in Rouge Park. So not that far from where the campground is. And it was really special where like some of us got to be at the opening that they did for the Sugar Bush several years ago. And we were able to bring a friend of ours from the Keweenaw Indian community down to help open up the Sugar Bush. He actually brought some maple sugar, like some sap boiling equipment and everything. But he sang an honor song that night, around the fire in Rouge Park to those maple trees. And, we wondered like, when's the last time those maple trees had heard that honor song, just like that was a special moment for me, but I was thinking about, what that meant for, those maples, and that forest to hear that song again.
Oh, that's beautiful. It's beautiful. We've, or at least Amanda and I for sure, and Garrett, I think you did as well, have used the term trauma at least once, if not twice. I think one of the things that's a challenge for the work that the two of you do and Heart of the Lakes work and others is that the terms have become overly politically loaded, right? So kids just need to toughen up, or that's sort of the old adage of boys don't cry, so to speak. Trauma isn't necessarily crying because you skinned your knee. So Amanda, if you wouldn't mind, maybe break down for us a little bit about what trauma-informed recreation, trauma-informed outdoor participation actually means well beyond boys don't cry.
Yeah, well, first, trauma actually does change the development and wiring of our brain in very, very significant ways that I think most people see as behavioral issues. And the more you dive into it, I don't even believe in behavioral issues. I believe your brain is literally physically stuck in a survival and trauma responsive fight, flight, fawn, Won't nerd out about that here, but it's actually like there's science behind it. I didn't make this up. I just happen to believe in it. And so when it comes to trauma, I think it's changing the narrative of like, what's wrong with you? Why are you a boy crying? And more is like, what happened to you? But also not trying to like harness too much in on that and trying to like figure out how to move through it. And one way, like I've kind of tried to, even like when I'm working with youth or when I'm trying to like talk to other people about this, I won't say trauma informed as much as I say brave spaces. I've kind of started to not like the terminology, right? I don't dislike is a hard word, but like safe spaces. Because what I'm learning, especially now more than ever, is like I cannot promise safety in any capacity. There are safe spaces. It's a container, right? Like my house or this room we're in, it's locked so nobody can come in and interrupt us and maybe say, stop saying the word trauma. But what I can do, is I provide helmets, water, food, instruction, all of these things that, are safe. But I can't control what's happening out in the world. People saying things, systemic racism, all those things that we know. So when I say brave space, to me, that's being trauma informed. That's creating a space where we can come as we are and honor that like we are all on different learning levels. There's nothing wrong with us. Just maybe things happen to us either in our childhood or ancestrally that there is proof now that passes down in our DNA. So that's kind of where I'm trying to like even, again, sometimes saying trauma too much even puts people in that victim mentality, which is true. We are victims to things, but that's not going to like evolve us. So that's why I like being brave and trying to overcome challenges through, coming to chill or participating in Detroit Outdoors is kind of the way to like get past the word trauma, because it is kind of a buzzword right now.
Well, I think it's like many things, it becomes a label, which then becomes very easy to wear. It becomes very easy to wear as to hide behind, versus, like you said, I think very eloquently, to be able to sort of to work through. It's not going to necessarily be solved, but there are options to not wear that as your badge of it's not your only identity, and to be able to create a new narrative around who you are, informed by life experiences and historical experiences, becomes really important to sort of grow and flourish beyond just that single identity. So I really like the way that you talk about it, though, in terms of brave spaces, because I think that's part of it as well. Is we can't. Ian Solomon, who was with us recently, pointed out. He said, I can't prevent other people from being racist. He said, so I'm going to go where I want to go, and I'm going to create my safe space because I can't change them, but I can affect me. And I hear a lot of that in what you're saying. Also, that idea that there's a way to create safety with a small s for someone in terms of how they're able to manage and control their physical recreation, and then also where their brain's headed as well.
Yeah, trauma isn't an end all. We really can heal it. And that's like what I want to message to people is you are not stuck in that reality. We can heal and rewire ourselves.
Yeah. Garrett, the youth that you work with as well, I'm not even sure I like that term youth, right? Because it's a spectrum as well. I don't know who youth are and I don't know who kids are. We're all kids, we're all young, hopefully. The people that you work with, how does that impact your work as well, their experiences, historical and current?
It's good to call them youth. We are intentional in Detroit Outdoors and working with young people. We celebrate and appreciate the folks that are working with all generations and all ages to get people outdoors and make those connections. In Detroit Outdoors, we do sort of like have that focus on young people in primary school, high school, college, like Amanda, I believe that trauma is real. It's in our lives individually, collectively, as communities and cultures. And in Detroit Outdoors, we don't have a background, the people that we bring together, at least intentionally, with using the outdoors as a place for therapy. We believe that it can be that. And so we don't necessarily sort of ask young people on a typical trip, to disclose those levels, those experiences they have that they might, sort of feel as trauma. But what we do is we believe the outdoors is a place where one can find some healing and some salve for whatever it is that ails you and what you carry with you. And so, you talk about those brave spaces. We look at every trip that we're a part of in the outdoors, whether we're leading it or whether we're just a supportive part, with a teacher that, those kids trust, as an opportunity to have a group that goes out as a unit. We are going out as a crew. And we're going to be together, looking out for each other from the moment we, go to the time we come back and have our last closing circle. So we care about one another, we pay attention to one another, and we create this space so that the young people on this trip, really everybody, but the young people can have an opportunity to engage with nature in a way that works for them, that is meaningful for them. We believe that nature is the original teacher. Instead of me getting trained on how to heal someone's trauma, I'm just going to work with a group of caring adults so these young people can go outside and spend some time in the outdoors and see what they can learn from that river, from the trees, from the animals that they're around them. That has way more teaching than anything I could hope to bring to bear. And this is not a slight on the people that do spend a lot of time and are really intentional about sort of that trauma-informed healing and doing that. I'm glad that's there. In Detroit Outdoors, what we have found works for us is just introducing the young people to nature, and nature always shows up. It always shows up, and it shows up in the way that's right for each individual. And it does it in a way that's I could never even try to dial in and predict.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly wilderness therapy. There are, I'm sure, some good programs, but it's gotten an increasingly bad reputation for the idea of almost being punitive. That going outside, you're sent outside. Going outside or being sent away to fix yourself is a paradigm that perhaps should go away, but really speaks too strongly to that idea of it's a program you're being assigned to versus being able to experience joy and awe, which I think is where that feeling comes from.
Yeah. Nature's home, I mean, nature is the most wonderful mirror one could, look into. I think it's much better than looking into the mirror of a smartphone because speaking of algorithms, there's no algorithms, at least that are controlled by human beings, that are at play in the natural world.
Yeah, cue deer, cue the turkey. If you could cue the awesome
That's right.
snow dump tomorrow, that would be great. Yeah, it doesn't quite work that way.
Nope.
I want to ask you both if you could kind of walk our listeners through a day in the life, so to speak. And what I mean by that is a day in the life of a youth member that you're working with. And what I mean by that is what's a weekend with Detroit Outdoors look like? What's a board session with Chill Foundation look like? Give us the dirty on the logistics. What's that look like?
Sure. So for us, we'll just do a snowboard day, but this could pertain to any of our sports. So we're a core value-driven curriculum. So of course, for snowboarding, we get on a bus and each day we have respect, courage, patience, perseverance, responsibility, or pride. All building blocks that we think benefit. Most adults can say, oh yeah, those are the things that help me get through life and overcome challenges. So we'll introduce each other and we try to be intentional with that, how we're kind of creating that brave space, like you said, Garrett, how we're going to hold space for each other, all those fun things. But then we'll do a fun activity about respect or courage and just be okay, great. Now that you kind of have that taste in your mouth of what that word means, how are we going to use that? Snowboarding or skateboarding, what have you. Then we'll do the lesson, which is, the main bread and butter of what we do. Super fun. A lot of natural, they don't even realize it's rewiring their brain just with all the patterning and regulation and getting outside, all the beautiful things, just like Garrett said, nature heals. But then after, we really kind of try to debrief and it's okay, so today was courage. How did you use courage out there? And we also shout each other out. That's kind of a tradition. We always shout each other out. That's the last thing we do or ourselves. But when you're reflecting on, okay, well, I use courage I never even thought I'd snowboard. Or I day one, because it's 6 weeks long, I never thought I'd go on that chairlift. Whatever it is, they can reflect. And it's okay, well, how can you use that today, tomorrow, and every day? And that's really where we want the experience of chill. Of course, we want new snowboarders. We want people to get into the industry. There's a lot of benefits to that. But even if you don't, what our true hope is this new knowledge you have, that adversity, that conflict, that even hard math tests, whatever the challenge is for you in life, you can remember what you learned. I overcame that challenge. I persisted. I was patient with myself. I was responsible. And now I have the tools to overcome that in life. Because the reality is you're just with us for 6 weeks. And we want the work that we do to live within you much longer. So that's kind of a day in the life for us.
Right on.
There's lots of different days I can pick from, but I might as well choose best day ever. So and the reason there's lots of different days is the young people we work with, they're not signed up to be like, I'm in the Detroit Outdoors program. They are interacting with us because they have an adult in their life usually, whether it be a teacher or a nonprofit worker that is taking the time to try and make nature a part of like what they bring into that young person's life. And so they work with Detroit Outdoors, these teachers, to help bring some of that nature programming and nature activity in. And so I'll just pick last summer, we went to Yosemite. Best day ever, like 7 of them for Detroit Outdoors. It was a big lift, but I'll pick the day when Shelton Johnson, a Cass Tech graduate, Detroit native, park ranger in Yosemite National Park, came to spend a day with us in Yosemite. So, we wake up in Yosemite National Park, get our food together, help clean up camp, put everything away in the bear boxes because we have heard the bears like tromping around the woods on the edge of camp, right? Like kids are zeroed in, like, all right, bears are real, they're here, and then a park ranger, from National Yosemite, it comes and spends a morning in our camp, welcomes us to the camp. We sit in a circle for 2 hours and we share stories. We hear him talk about his story. We hear him talk about, the connections of the Buffalo Soldiers as, some of the first park rangers in Yosemite, and the legacies of people of color in the outdoors. And then we spend a great day exploring, hiking, in conversation with students, just hanging out with peers, hanging out with other adults. Some of these students are from Cass Tech. One of their teachers is there with us. There's a bunch of adults that, the kids are kind of interacting with. And it's like, I've never been on a trip. When you have the right adults, I've never been on a trip where there's too many adults, because then you can really mix and, kids get to build relationships with different folks. So their teacher, these adults with Detroit Outdoors, with Shelton, with Phil Henderson, the guy who climbed Mount Everest twice and, organized the first all-black summit team for Mount Everest. Phil's just hanging out with us in camp, walking up, the top of Sentinel Dome with us. And so we have this great day exploring the park, have another great meal in camp with each other, help clean up. A couple of the kids get a fire going, and then we sit around a big circle and we debrief the day. And we go around and everybody, has a chance to share their rose, their bud, their thorn, their highlight, their low light, something they're excited about. And then we tuck ourselves into bed, making sure everything's put away in the bear boxes, and we're ready for an adventure the next day.
That's great. That's great. I love too not only there's obviously the built-in intentionality of both of your programs, but you can hear the patterning, right? Like it's not just do, it's also understand why, and also celebrating, frankly, the downs sometimes too, because the ups are awesome, but there's a lot of downs in life too, and being able to accept and be able to work through those makes a lot of sense as well. I also love the fact how much attention ends up getting paid once there's an apex predator around, right? I mean, like you're like, I'm on the food chain. It might be smart for me to think about this a little bit differently, which is always kind of a fun approach too, to really take it out of that environment where like milk's not coming from the fridge and I might get eaten are always fun things to think about.
Sharpens that attention.
Sure does. Mm-hmm. Sure does. You both have youth at this point that are circling back into the programs. Once participants, now emerging leaders. How is that built into your programs? And what do you see as the trajectory for, it's not recycling, recirculating leadership, recreating leadership? I'm not sure what the right term is, but what's the pathway forward for encouraging that?
Yeah, for us, this is like really new and exciting work. I think naturally we've always brought back, we call them alumni as like mentors and leaders and just try to continue access, but it was always just kind of impromptu. This year we've actually hired an alumni manager, and it's like our first year of really putting intention. We're putting together an alumni committee where they're getting paid. They get to kind of come with us, kind of really be a part of like all the new work we do, really youth driven. So I'm just personally excited about that. That's like on a much higher level. But on the outcome of that is to hopefully kind of like even have a little bit more structure around how alumni can like communicate with each other and stay connected, and how we can build access, and just like, we have programs all over the country, but even this weekend, actually, we're bringing up a bunch of our alumni as mentors up to Boyne Mountain, and we're outfitting them head to toe in gear. We're just going to have a weekend of being snowboarders, right? Teaching them leadership, progression, and career development. So again, like our future hope is like building more partnerships with organizations to help with internships or career learning or readiness, or kind of like, okay, we taught you this cool sport. We got you excited about the outdoors, but like then what, right? Is like all of us know sitting here, we work in the industry and it does help even create access for us, right? So that's something that we really are putting a lot of effort right now into our strategic plan. And then even to set them up more for that, we're mostly interested in, we have one youth that attends maybe at 13. We don't want just like a new group of youth every single year. Like we're really interested in like, okay, can like that person come back 2 or 3 sports or like multiple years in a row and like grow with us? It's almost like depth over breadth, So that's kind of like what we're currently working on, but we're in this like really cool kind of incubation phase of like with this like new alumni position and with this alumni committee. I'm really excited kind of what they come up with because they're the knowledge keepers in that space. So it's kind of a fun time at Chill to see what the future holds in that section.
Letting them loose.
Yeah, we are.
Kids go, lead, show us the way.
They're going to come up with something much better than I would. So
dig it. I love that. In Detroit Outdoors, we're really network, community focused. We exist because of the way that we work with a wide range of partners. Trying to think about ways that we can share resources, make suggestions for organizations that can work together to advance their goals. We have a small staff that does that. So all of that is to say, we don't have a large intentional sort of structure that we've created that can, be this sort of like youth development, leadership development pathway that we sort of like created and manage. What we try to do and what we see starting to really emerge is by having these really intentional relationships with those classroom teachers and those organizations that work with young people. Those teachers, we believe it and we see it happening. Those teachers believe in these kids, work so hard to support these kids and however they need to do it. And like they know these young people, and sometimes there's a young person in the Outdoor Venture Club that wants to do something a little bit more, and then they say like, why don't you email so-and-so over at Detroit Outdoors? Let them know what you're thinking about, see if they've got something for you, right? And so sometimes a student will reach out directly to us, or an adult will say like, I got this young person that's really, or I really want to like take it to the next level. And then we just try to figure out in our network, in the same way we try to connect organizations and work with organizations in the way that makes sense, we try to find like, is there a place where in our network where we know this young person can like direct that passion, that energy, and see where it goes. And we're really iterative, like in Detroit Outdoors, like what we do, how we grow is so informed by the state of all of our relationships at the moment and the state of our funding, right? And so we try to do as much as we can with the little we have. I will say, like a couple of our staff that are full-time with Detroit Outdoors first camped, they're Detroiters, first camped, got into the outdoors with partner programs that we're a part of. And, they've either like got it through high school, graduated from college, and now they're working with us, like bringing the next generation of youth kind of into the outdoors.
So you use the F word, which makes me sigh every time I say it. This stuff costs money, funding.
Yeah.
Where does it come from? What do you need?
I just gave a talk called Stone Soup. So like we squeeze it out of rocks as best as we can, and not in the way that needs drilling equipment, It comes from people believing in this idea that if we gather together, work in community, share what we have, then we'll be able to produce something that's meaningful for the kids, and good things will come for that. Now that's sort of like the philosophical, right? But like if you're a bean counter, that doesn't fill the spreadsheet, right? So in terms of the funds that we actually dollars get in, we have some federal partners. that are really important for us, helping find like grants that can support our work. Foundations like the Kresge Foundation, the Ralph C. Wilson Foundation have given us direct grants to our collaborative to help move things forward. The Kresge Foundation got us going, right? That's what really kicked us off. And then significant in-kind, right? Like I work for the Sierra Club. You know, the grant money that we raised in Detroit lasted a couple of years, but like I didn't have any more money to kick in for my pay. And the Outdoors for All campaign of the Sierra Club, you know, led by the amazing Jackie Osfeld, they said like, we're committed to raising money so that you can keep doing this work in Detroit because it's important for the Outdoors for All campaign. City of Detroit, Jack Kyle, Rachel Felder, they're Detroit Parks and Rec Department employees that are allowed to spend a significant amount of time helping advance this whole work. So in kind through staff and resources by partners is how we move it forward.
Amanda, I assume Chill is probably fairly similar, but also obviously with a decent corporate parent at the same time. Is that true?
Yeah, so we very similar. We don't get a ton of federal funding. I am lucky enough to have like a whole development team that really handles this. We have like an amazing grant writer, certain things like that. Our fundraising is, of course, a little bit more on a national level. We've had some amazing local fundraising just through people in the community who have just so kindly offered their efforts. A lot of our like staff across the country, they're program coordinators, so their efforts and time really can only go into the youth. But yeah, a lot of in-kind donations. We're really trying to work on like those deeper corporate partnerships, not only because we hope their pockets are deep, but also, you know, that is another pathway to internships, career readiness, all that kind of stuff. So a little bit of uncharted territory as everyone's feeling right now, but very similar, just people who believe in it. So I think one thing I was really inspired even listening to Garrett today too is like the power of storytelling. And I think more than ever, with so much uncertainty in the world and like this fear-driven narrative, we just want people to believe in what we're doing. And I think that could like kind of help everyone help keep this work alive.
I want to shift to geography if I can for a minute. So respectively, home, so to speak, is Southeast and West Michigan. You both have a deep love for the Upper Peninsula also. Amanda, I know you just got back, and Garrett, you can't wait to go back. One of the criticisms that we get a lot of in Michigan and obviously in the Great Lakes region is that there's such a distinction between our rural places and our cities, all right? It's this artificial, like, those are those people over there, and this is us over here. But both personally and professionally, the two of you bridge that almost daily. Why the UP? Why would the UP even be connected to some of the work that you're doing in downstate?
I think that one for me is just more of like a personal level. Like I don't have the resources or the access to bring youth up there. Believe me, that would be a dream. The farthest we get is Boyne, which is really only one weekend a year. I think the UP is just such a kind of forgotten, you know, we know it's magical, but like, you know, a national organization. When I'm telling people about the UP, or I went on a trip, you know, a couple weeks ago and I saw Garrett up there. And, you know, I was posting all these pictures on Instagram. I was like, where are you? Like, are you like out of the country? Are you in Vancouver? Like I had all these kind of things. And so for me, this thought of the UP is kind of a new, that's why I'm having a hard time answering. It's kind of like this new concept because I've just always known and loved it and maybe been like overly protective of it, which was like a big conversation we had. I was like, okay, what do we do with it? I'm like, oh, I'm actually part of the problem. I'm protective of it. I'm like, nobody know about the UP. It's magic. It's my magic. But I'm really excited to, you know, I'm being up there myself and, you know, I really want to go with Garrett when he brought youth up there and I'd love to experience like what they think of driving over that bridge. And like, it really humbled me of like, yeah, we can take kids out of the city, but like, you know, taking them out of the state into these other areas, it's just so unprecedented to them, I think is really important. So it's been like a new expansive kind of idea for me on how to utilize what we have. Like I even kind of like took for granted our beautiful Upper Peninsula. So, yeah.
I think over the course of 2 weeks, the three of us, plus several hundred of our closest friends and colleagues, were all like driving back and forth over the Mackinac Bridge. I mean, there was, when we think about outdoor recreation in Michigan, there's close to home for sure. And then there's just sort of like mega epicenters of things, right? So over the course of a couple of weeks, we had the Peak Conference in Marquette. We had the Polar Roll, we had the UP 200, we had the Michigan Ice Climbing Festival, additional dog sled races, and the Keweenaw. Like, just it's like so much going on, and for some folks it feels very far away, and in fact it's not. But it really is kind of magical. Garrett, you've been busing quite literally groups across the Mackinac now for a number of years to the Michigan Ice Festival. Why would you do that?
There's that watercolor painter. I'm trying to remember his first name, but famous Japanese watercolor painter that went to Yosemite a lot, in the early 1900s, and he would refer going up to see great nature. And I think of the Upper Peninsula and that space up there as great nature. It's not to take away from the incredible natural spaces we have in Detroit. I've had many amazing moments with the white-tailed deer and the red-tailed hawk and the coyote in Rouge Park. But I mean, Gitchagumi, Lake Superior is this I don't know if other people think of it like the heart, but it's like the heart of this Great Lakes region. This is our home, and it's a part of it. We're connected to it. And it is, for a young person in Detroit, part of their national heritage. Their legacies are connected to it. And so we think it's important for them to not only be able to connect with nature at home, but to go into, this amazing place up there, and to go in the wintertime and spend 6 hours outside when it's 0 degrees, and either climbing some ice or tromping on frozen Lake Superior and just soaking it in. And those are powerful moments that happen. And that's why we do it. It was nighttime this last youth trip. They were there. These are all Detroit kids, right? And they're putting on their clothes, and they go out for 45 minutes at 11:30 at night. It's real feel 22 degrees, and they're just laying in the snow, looking at the stars, blowing their minds. And they come in and they're like, oh, we're warming up and we're going back out again. Those are some really powerful moments. One young man a couple years ago, we were both packing up the cabin, night before we're leaving. I'm in my truck. He's sitting next to my truck. He's looking up, and I look up. Oh, Big Dipper up there, strong, right? And I said, getting one last look. And he's like, yeah, it's only the second time I saw it. I was like, when was the first? He goes, last night. Oh, wow. Fast forward 6 months. That kid left his job in Detroit and signed up and got enrolled in Northern Michigan University. And we said hello to him and hung out with him at the dining hall this time we went up. He just loved the UP, loved that space. We made him feel safe, and he felt comfortable enough with the community that welcomed us up there as well. In the way that those folks welcomed us. Ice Fest is such a welcoming community, they want us there. And so he's living in Marquette now.
Yeah, I just want to kind of add to that, because I was thinking about my drive up there and putting myself in the lens of a youth. And even when I drive, you cross the bridge and then you're just in this vastness for a while. And how many other places do you really get that vastness? It's I almost get a little intimidated when I'm by myself. I'm oh no, car, okay, let's keep going, until you get to, your pinpoints. And, coming from Detroit or Grand Rapids, that's if I'm even feeling that power, and I've been up to the UP multiple times, what just a eerie but beautiful and powerful experience to just be that vastly in nature. And it's in Michigan. We're so lucky.
When it feels too that there's I'm not sure who the they is, but they talk about urban-rural, the urban-rural divide. I suppose it's planners and policy wonks who talk about that a lot. And at the end of the day, there's hardworking people connected to land in downtown Detroit, in Muskegon Heights, in Munising. There's a common thread amongst the, it's not survival, it's what life looks like in the Midwest and in Michigan. And I think that it's the policy wonks that have sort of really overemphasized it's there and here, and in between there's just a lot of sort of emptiness, versus there's a continuum of people that make up Michigan, make it so great, and at the same time also have the grit gets overused. I don't like that in the policy terms either anymore, but sort of that idea, that ruggedness of individualism, which I still think exists very much and is very, very exemplified in our cities and in the Upper Peninsula for sure.
I think if we look at rural and urban as the two ends of that spectrum, I think you bend it and they meet in the full circle.
Yeah.
I was born and raised in the city. I'm a city kid. And I think I say it all the time. City folk and country folk have way more in common than most people give them credit for. And you talk about that grit and there's that individualism. You can disappear in a city, right? Even though you're surrounded by millions of people, and you can disappear in the country, right? And have this sense of independence, that living in a suburb where they tell you your grass is 4 inches too tall, cut it or we're gonna give you a ticket. You don't get that in a city or in the country.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
I want to, if we can, shift a little bit to sort of public policy conversation. Michigan nationally is in the low teens in terms of the impact of our outdoor economy. Obviously, the activities and the kinds of programming that both of you work on has outdoor recreation and conservation of public lands at their base. It's been suggested that the state of Michigan's attribution to our outdoor economy at times sometimes looks a little bit like cosplay, perhaps, where it's a costume we put on when it's a good PR talking point, and maybe not as much direct investment in programming and workforce development and the health and mental health sides as could be there. In other words, it becomes an economic development issue, not a workforce development, not a health and healing issue. So I'm curious if you've given any thought to either what policy changes you might like to see in Michigan, or areas where you think we could maybe invest a little bit deeper in terms of our existing structures and governmental functions, things like that.
I mean, off the bat, there's one that I think of that I would love to see more investment in, the Nature Awaits program. Governor Whitmer, worked to get this program in to have field trips for all fourth graders to a state park. I look at you could maybe call it a parallel at the national level, the Every Kid Outdoors, that idea that on a national level, every fourth grader in the country is going to have a park pass for a year that'll get them and their families into any federally managed land. I would love to see something like that in the state of Michigan, so expand on what the intention was with Nature Awaits. And instead of one field trip that's managed by the DNR, I'm glad they're doing it, but support those fourth graders and their families to get for a whole year out to every state park. The funding and also the invitation.
Yeah, I mean, the pay-to-play model, I need to pay to get into this place is a barrier for a lot of reasons. And I think it's going to become even more apparent as we're recording this, the threats to our federal public lands couldn't be greater. And that idea of, you can go if you can afford to, becomes an even deeper conversation. And also that idea of once is nice, but we all know that it's the repeat experience that actually allows someone to deeply engage. I didn't see the dipper once, I saw it twice. And then I went back again for a third and a fourth and a fifth time versus, sort of I'm going to get to see it once and then never again kind of thing. Amanda, in your world, the health and mental health side is very important, as is the workforce development side. Are there things that you'd like to see more emphasis on or places where you think we could invest?
Yeah, kind of thinking about what Garrett just said. We have a lot of awesome partners, a lot of people that believe in our work, but one of our biggest and most simple barriers, transportation, and we can provide the tools, we can provide the gear, we can provide the partners that are hey, come on in, we'll let you come ride for free, play for free. But there's still I don't have an answer to how to get people there. Or even just thinking West Michigan, Lake Michigan is half hour, 40 minutes from Grand Rapids. And I have youth, we serve youth in Grand Rapids and Muskegon, different Muskegon. I mean, even Muskegon kids aren't going to the beach. There isn't even transportation for them. They can't walk there. And that just seems like such a mismark for me. And, kind of balancing, my work and his work, the work can happen getting outside. He said, nature heals, nature's our teacher. So at the bottom line, how do they get there? If there's no way to get out there safely, or, even if you could afford a bus ticket, there's no buses getting to these places. There's no bus to Kinnensburg. There's no bus to the beach. There's no bus to parks. They probably are driving by these parks. So I guess that would be kind of in the work I see. How can we amplify our transportation? Or maybe that's not the answer, but some sort of access to these places seems to be a huge barrier, because even getting your driver's license, sometimes I help youth with that. That is insane. It's expensive. You don't have a car. So I think transportation would be my huge ask here.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, right? It's if you can't get there, you can't experience it, and it seems really basic, but it's not. It's the first step, literally. So, right on.
Yeah, the Sierra Club is part of a national effort, transit to trails, and a lot of organizations and groups, from the community level up to federal policy are thinking about like that can be such an answer to unlocking and lowering a barrier to time outside. And I know there's a couple of lines, that transit agencies in Metro Detroit, have out to, I think Lake St. Clair had a park connector, and there's a bus so you can get down to the Detroit River International Wildlife Refuge. But yeah, it takes a while and it takes some work. I applaud them for doing that, and yeah, more investment, more support for them to do even more of it.
When Garrett, one of your partners, is it's not the exact name, the Big Red Bus, because I smile every time I see the Big Red Bus go by. How does that work?
You got to mention Big Red, right on. Yeah, it's the bus for outdoor access and teaching. One of the best partners that Detroit Outdoors has worked with as a way to get young people outdoors. It's like a mission aligned, like outdoor and transportation like program, right? So, and I'll get to the good part first. They have funding to build out a second bus. So Big Red is based in Milwaukee, still supports us in Detroit, but they're going to have a new bus that comes on maybe end of this summer, fall, that's going to be really geared towards supporting the east side of Lake Michigan. So fully outfitted bus with a gear library to get 30 kids backpacking or front country camping with a driver and staff that are trip leaders, woofers, wilderness EMTs, and they work with the adults that work with the kids to shape the trip how they want it, right? They're not prescriptive. They're just like, we've got a lot of skills and resources. Let us help you bring your vision and mission outside. And they can load you up on the bus and get you there. So can't say enough good stuff about the bus for outdoor access and teaching.
Yeah, I'll see it going down the road, literally down the highway, and just like I know what's happening and where it's headed, and big smile every time I see that. So, what's next for both of you? What's on the horizon for the programs? What do you wish was there that wasn't yet? What should people pay attention to?
What's next for us? I already kind of alluded to kind of our strategic plan, trying to get deeper, really working with our alumni. But on top of that, just at Chill, we are rethinking our curriculum. I kind of led you down the road of like how we have respect, courage, patience, perseverance. But we want to dig a little bit deeper, knowing that, developmentally 11 through 15 are taking information and behaving very differently than 15 to 19. And I work with 11 to 19. So like right now we're just kind of in a curation of like perfecting our art and perfecting our form, kind of staying to our tried and true board sports, all of that. Don't really see any changes in the future, but like for us, we're really just kind of trying to dig deeper. So like life after Chill and doing better at what we're already doing. So I think that's what you can expect from us.
The big adjustment that Detroit Outdoors has made over the last couple of years that we're really excited about is building off of that initial model that brought us together of indirect support, right? So we train a teacher or a youth agency worker, train as much as you can in 28 hours of just how to feel confident leading a front country camping trip, right? We train them on that, connect them with a community, supporting community, and then give them access to that gear and support them getting out to like have that camping trip, whether it's in Detroit or, Kensington Metro Park or up in the UP. We have found that over the last couple of years, as we've started to intentionally support these outdoor adventure clubs at Detroit and Hamtramck high schools, these teachers and their enthusiastic students, sometimes they might need, along the spectrum, sometimes they might need a little bit more support than we set them up with just with that training. And by us and our small staff saying like, oh, we can show up, in force on your first camping trip and just help with all of the madness that can be a teen camping trip, like washing dishes and all that kind of stuff, getting tents broken down. And then we do that a few more times and eventually like we find they don't need us as much. And that outdoor adventure club, those teachers and their students have this momentum that's going. And so having that little bit of adjustment where we are showing up in a range of support after the training, we see more just growth and engagement and enthusiasm and success with these outdoor venture clubs. And so for us, we're really excited to work more with Detroit Public Schools Community District, with Hamtramck High School, and their school district as we can to support those teachers in that way, connect them with these different other programs, and get them on their way, and just grow from there. So really further engagement with these schools, supporting these clubs, the recreation centers. The Detroit Parks and Recreation Department is excited about what they see, that momentum with the schools, and would like to try and bring some more intentionality around outdoor venture clubs for teens at rec centers as well. So that's something that's emerging. What we see is this growing culture of the outdoors, amongst Detroit youth, and we're just down to be a part of it.
When I'm stuck behind my desk, which is more than I care to admit, one of my favorite things to do is be able to see all the fun that everyone else is having through their programming. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
DetroitOutdoors.org. Start there. It'll lead you to everywhere else you need to go.
Yeah, we're easy. Chill.org, Chill Foundation on Instagram and YouTube. Follow us, believe in us, get outside.
We're on those platforms too. I just don't manage any of it. So.
It's not a competition, Garrett.
No, but we're there. I'm just telling people, go to DetroitOutdoors.org and you'll figure out how to find us on those other places.
I can't top that. Amanda, Garrett, thank you so much for not just the work that you do, but your time today. Look forward to many more conversations, and I think probably more importantly, look forward to getting out with both of you as your programs proceed. So thank you. Much gratitude.
Gwetch.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
As always, thanks for the support by the C.S. Mott Foundation and the Conservation Fund. Production provided by Anna Moya. Thought leadership by Parallel Solutions. We really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us in this conversation, and we'll catch you all next time.